How's it going, trainers? It feels like we just had the Fighting Cup in the Go Battle League, but with Season 12 already underway, we're coming up on a special cup on the other side of the type chart. So for today's video, let's look into the future and see which Pokemon and which teams will perform best in the all-new Psychic Cup. So get ready, trainers, and let's get psychic. Welcome back, everyone. So the rules of the Psychic Cup are fairly similar to the previous two monotype cups we've had previously, the Flying and Fighting Cups. You can only use Pokemon that have the Psychic type and are under 1500 combat power. This does include dual types, so if they're Dark Psychic, Steel Psychic, or even Ground Psychic, they're good for this cup. The only other restriction for this cup is that the mythical Pokemon Mew is banned. This is probably for the best though, with its bountiful move pool. But other than that, all other Psychic Pokemon are fair game. Now, Psychic resists a few different types, so those types will definitely be a bit more handy in this cup. However, it's worth noting that Psychic resists itself, and many Psychic types have moves outside of its own type, so it'll be a little less important resisting the type. What will be important though is having powerful, super effective moves, and that brings us to one of our heavy hitters for the cup, Malamar. Malamar is a Psychic and Dark type, meaning Psychic moves will barely hurt it. But at the same time, it only takes neutral damage from Ghost and Dark moves, meaning it'll perform pretty well in this cup. It uses the fast-charging Psycho Cut to charge up Foul Plays, which hit most of the meta for super effective damage, so it's easy to see why it's going to be good. It's definitely not unbeatable though, as Malamar is on the frailer side, plus, we'll be taking a look at some Fairy types that'll give it a run for its money. Still, if you have a good one, it can be an excellent choice for your team. Now in terms of a second charged move, having Superpower isn't great in this meta, but the move is slightly less expensive than Foul Play, so it can be what wins you some tight matches, especially in the Malamar Mirror match. Moving on though, let's talk about Steel types. Steel obviously resists Psychic, so Steel Psychic will be really defensive. Now the best of the three is easily Bronzong, who's seen some success in previous limited formats. Its pre-evolution was also a dominant force in the Little Cup, so it goes to show how good this type can be. Bronzong has an impressive defense stat, which makes it one of the bulkiest picks for this cup, and even better, it's got a solid moveset to back it up. Feint Attack is one of the few dark fast moves in this cup. While it's normally mediocre, it's going to work great here. In addition, Bronzong can run the powerful dark type Payback to hit most opponents really hard, and for a cheaper secondary option, you can also run Heavy Slam for baiting. It can also help deal with Fairy types that cross your path, but either way, Bronzong has a lot going for it, and that's why it's easily one of the best choices for the cup. Now the other two Steel types you can use don't really hold a candle to Bronzong, but they can still hold their own merit. The mythical Jirachi isn't as bulky as Bronzong, but it's a whole lot spammier. Normally Jirachi would run Confusion in the Great League, but that psychic damage would be pretty wasted in this cup, so instead, it'll run the generally inferior Charge Beam. Where that move lacks in strength, it makes up for in energy generation, so Jirachi can fire off its signature move a lot faster. Doom Desire is cheap and powerful, so it can come in handy for sure, especially against Fairy types. As for a second charged move, it's not super necessary, but running Dazzling Gleam can help against certain Pokemon, like Latios and of course, Malamar. And the final three of the Steel trio is Metagross. Truthfully though, I don't think this one will be an amazing choice, but it does still have some merit. Bullet Punch will put pressure on Fairy types, and the super strong Meteor Mash does great damage to most opponents. But other than that, Metagross isn't really that bulky in the Great League, and it'll take a decent amount of time to get up to its charged moves. If you build a good team around it, it can work, but I don't think it's going to make much of an impact. Now, if you're looking to resist Steel attacks, Alolan Raichu can be a solid pick. Using Volt Switch and the powerful Wild Charge, it can deal devastating damage on most of the meta. Plus, if you can bait properly with Thunder Punch, Raichu can be even more fantastic. That being said though, it's far from perfect, as it's definitely on the frailer side. Plus, both Bronzong and Malamar will threaten it with their Dark type attacks. But still, Raichu is overall a really solid option for the Psychic Cup. Another Pokemon who resists Steel is Victini, who recently got a buff with Quick Attack. Now it'll be able to charge its incredibly powerful V-Create even faster, and what makes this Pokemon really great is that you really don't need a second move that much. V-Create already fulfills the role of a powerful fire move, so you don't really need Overheat. Plus, V-Create is cheaper. You will need to know when to switch since the move decreases Victini's defense 3 stages when used, but overall, Victini's speed and power makes it one of the best Pokemon in the Cup. Now if you're looking to defeat a lot of these previous Pokemon, look no further than Claydol. Wait, really? Claydol? Niantic has notoriously given it several move updates trying to make it good, to no avail. Well, it finally has a place to shine in the Psychic Cup. Claydol has phenomenal bulk, and its fast move Mud Slap deals solid damage and scares a lot of Pokemon, including Victini, Raichu, and our 3 Steel types. Plus, it has Shadow Ball for some powerful super effective damage. You can even choose to run it with just Shadow Ball if you want to save some dust, although Rock Tomb's debuff can come in handy. The big issue for Claydol though is that Mud Slap doesn't really generate energy fast, so you won't be able to fire off many charged moves. Still, it's a solid choice. Moving on though, let's talk Fairy types. Galarian, Rapidash, and Gardevoir are both solid choices in this cup, though while they're good, each serve 2 completely different roles. For Rapidash, it recently got the new fast move Fairy Wind, which has the exact same stats as Psycho Cut, its previous best move, but because it's Fairy and not Psychic, it won't be resisted by the entire meta. Rapidash is a spammier Fairy type, being able to throw Body Slams quickly and the stronger Mega Horn too, which is especially good against Malamar and all the other Psychic types in the cup. For Gardevoir though, it's all about fast move pressure with Charm. Charm will do strong neutral damage against a lot of the meta, and obviously super effective damage against Malamar, though depending on the matchup, Gardevoir is very hit or miss. Steel, Fire, and Poison types will give it a hard time for sure. Now you may be thinking, Poison types in a Psychic Cup? Well, we actually have 2 options, being Galarian Slowbro and Slowking. Slowbro isn't really a good choice though. While Poison Jab is actually really good against fairies and does great neutral damage against non-steel types, it doesn't really have good charged moves of note. Sludge Bomb is good, but not great here. But on the other side, Galarian Slowking is a whole different story. Hex may not be a super powerful move, but it's still a ghost attack. It can quickly charge Slowking's powerful Shadow Balls, making it quite deadly. This is the Poison type for this cup, resisting Charm and having super effective ghost moves. And our last 2 picks have no subtyping, they're just Psychic. Cresselia is a Central Ultra League pick and has been prominent in the Great League as well. Its massive bulk helps it out in the Psychic Cup, with Grass Knot dealing solid damage and Moonblast being great for Malamar. Still though, it'll have a hard time against Steel types and Victini, so it's not amazing. And Hypno is another bulky Psychic type, but it's got more useful charged moves in the form of Fire Punch and Shadow Ball. The big issue though is that the fast move Confusion is slow, and the Psychic damage is wasted on other Psychic Pokemon who resist it, so it's not going to be amazing in the cup either, but those charged moves are good ones for sure. Now there are some other good choices for this cup that we didn't list. For example, with Victini being one of the best Pokemon in the cup, Lunatone and Slowbro can definitely come in handy because they counter it really well, though they're otherwise not that great. But moving on, what kinds of teams could you build with these Pokemon? For our first team, we have Galarian Rapidash as the lead, followed by Gardevoir and Claydol. Rapidash is all about energy generation and charged move spam, whereas the other 2 are about fast move pressure. Rapidash's biggest lead threats are Gardevoir and Steel types, but Claydol has the bulk and fast move pressure to pivot and take them on. Otherwise, Rapidash can charge up Body Slams and Mega Horns to spam frailer opponents and threaten shields, especially Malamar. And even in the less favorable matchup against Victini, you can be patient and either force them to switch after they throw their V-Create, or you can throw a Body Slam right after their debuff, forcing them to either shield or faint. And Claydol is also great for taking down Victini in the latter part of a match. But if you want to utilize the more powerful Victini on your team, this second team will utilize it as your closer, with Malamar as the lead and Bronzong as the switch. Malamar can often demand shields with its quick charging foul plays, and when those shields are down, Bronzong's Payback and Victini's V-Create can hit really hard. It is important to anticipate what the opponent switches into though. If you're stuck in a less favorable matchup with Malamar, which is often against a Fairy type, both Victini and Bronzong can be great pivots, but one charges fast and hits hard, and the other is bulky and has more fast move pressure. If you switch into either for safety, they could absolutely switch into a counter for either of those Pokemon, so it's important to weigh which Pokemon could take on their potential backline better. Victini has more coverage against the meta with its raw power, but Bronzong can take more hits. But otherwise, this is a very solid lineup. And for our last team, we have Gardevoir, Alolan Raichu, and Galarian Slowking. Gardevoir brings immediate fast move pressure, especially if you use its Shadow variant, which can force opponents to switch if they lead something like Malamar or Hypno. And Raichu and Slowking have powerful charged moves that can eliminate potential Steel-type counters. The big threat I'd say to this team is Claydol, who can easily take down Slowking and Raichu and chip down Gardevoir as well. But having Shadow Ball saved on both Gardevoir and Slowking can save you if you run into the ground Psychic type. But that just about wraps up our Psychic Cup prep guide. Before we go though, let me know who you're thinking of running in this cup. I think I'll be giving the second team a try, as I've already got a Bronzong and a Malamar built, plus Victini only really needs V-Create. But down below, comment your team. We'll have several brand new cups this season, and you can bet we'll be doing prep guides for them too, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss them. I'm personally really excited for the Ultra League Halloween Cup, but until then, thanks so much for watching, and I wish you all the best of luck in the Psychic Cup. Take care.